Imagine being a basketball player in the biggest game of your life. Your team is down by 1 and there's hardly any time left on the clock. And it just so happens that you get fouled and you're going to the line for 2 shots. Well, that's exactly where Romeo Robinson was in the 1989 NCAA Basketball Championship. Hello everyone, I am Dave D'Amico, and it is time for another exciting moment to relive here on Sports Moments. Now, before we get into the story, I want to give a huge congratulations to my former high school football teammate, Jeff Okuda, who was selected 3rd overall in the 2020 NFL Draft by the Detroit Lions. We were teammates at South Grand Prairie High School. I was a senior when he was a freshman, and yes, he was on the varsity team as a freshman. Now I know what you're thinking. There's no way that guy played football. Well, I did. Here's a picture to prove it. And here's a pic of me when I was a team captain. And here's me going in for a play. You see, what I did was, I was the placeholder. All I did was just catch the snap from the long snapper, held it down, and made sure the kicker made the field goal. And that's not a simple task. That ball comes in you at a rocket, so you need to have sure hands. But enough about me. Good luck in the NFL, Jeff. Now, on to the story. The Michigan Wolverines finished the 88-89 college basketball season with a record of 30-7, good for number 10 overall, and they would take the number 3 seed in the Southeast Regional. However, their head coach Bill Pfeiffer would be dismissed before the tournament, and it was up to interim head coach Steve Fisher to lead the way. They would cruise past their opponents, which would include a 85-49 victory over Illinois in the Final Four, whom they had lost to earlier in the season in the Big Ten title game. Seton Hall finished their season 31-7, which would put them at number 11 overall. They too would be a number 3 seed, as they were in the West Regional. They would get through the first 5 rounds with relative ease, and after beating Duke 95-78 in the Final Four, the Pirates were on to their first appearance in the national championship game. The game was played on April 3rd, 1989 at the Kingdome in Seattle in front of 39,187 people. Both teams were seeking their first title in school history. It was destined to be a game for the ages. And it was off to a fast start, as both teams would be banking baskets back and forth. For Michigan, Glenn Rose and Romeo Robinson would perform as a dynamic duo as they got the Wolverines rolling. At the half, Michigan would have the lead by a score of 37-32. But in the second half, senior John Morton would put the Pirates on his back as he would bank shot after shot and would give Seton Hall the lead. But Glenn Rose would bank a 3-pointer and give the lead back to Michigan. Now you know what they say. The only exciting moments in basketball are the final 2 minutes. Well, let's see how exciting those last 2 minutes were.
He's got a hand on it. Seton Hall's ball. 3-on-2 now. Green off to the side. Morton hits it again. Seton Hall brings Morton, who's been the scoring sensation, up with the layup. 19 points in the second half. They trail it by 2. Rice with the 3. Michigan leads. Good touch. It's a 3-point lead, 34 seconds. Here comes Seton Hall.
Think about Gaze right now for the 3.
And Morton with the hot hand. He'll jack up the 3. He close it. 24 seconds. Time for Michigan. He comes out high. He's got Gaze on him. Gaze with him. Rice shoots. Rice doesn't get the roll. We're going to go to overtime.
40 minutes wasn't enough. It would take overtime to decide which school would have their first ever national title. Rice would knock in the first basket to give the Wolverines the lead, but Andrew Gaze answered with a 3. John Morton would get his 35th point by way of a 3 with 2:42 left to go. Now, within 10 seconds left, Michigan is down by 1, and this happens.
They've got to hurry. 5 seconds. Robinson goes in. Foul call with 3 seconds. Tied. Let's see what happens on the free throw. Michigan leads it.
Can you imagine that much pressure? Given my basketball skills, or lack thereof, I know I wouldn't have made those. But now with only 3 seconds left, Seton Hall would try one last 3, but it wouldn't go in, and it was over. The title belonged to Michigan, winning its first one, and to date, its only one in school history. After that game, Seton Hall had some pretty solid college basketball seasons, but they never made it back to a championship game. Michigan, on the other hand, has made it back to the big stage 4 more times, in 92, 93, 13, and 18, but came up short every time. Both Glenn Rice and Rumeal Robinson went on to play in the NBA, but only Glenn Rice had a solid career, which included an NBA champion with the Lakers in 2000, 3 All-Star Game appearances, and averaged 18.3 points a game. However, Rumeal Robinson would never find himself in the spotlight again, as he only played 6 seasons for 6 different teams, and finished his career averaging only 7.6 a game. And Seton Hall star player John Morton, who had scored 35 points in the big game, would only last 3 seasons in the NBA, playing for both the Cavaliers and the Heat, playing in just 128 games, averaging only 4.8 points per game. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of Sports Moments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe to hear more great moments in sports history. I'm going to try and stay consistent in making an episode a week. If you have a moment for me to cover, comment below, or you can send me an email at sportsmoments815@gmail.com. And I'll see you in the next moment.